Hello everyone, my name is John Scheller, and today I will be presenting on self-deception in our nation's society. Next slide. Confucius once said, "Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's own ignorance." For the past few decades, the growing ignorance of Americans has had a negative effect on society as a whole. People should not use the word ignorance to define lack of knowledge or disagreement with their own perspective. However, ignorance by definition is when someone assumes that the knowledge that they have obtained is correct regardless of knowledge presented to them. In this year's stimulus package, the underlying theme was of our own perceptions on things and the way the future will alter these perceptions. This growing issue throughout the United States has created a society in which offense is readily thrown at each other for not accepting opposing views. This ignorance will be the separation of many in the United States if issues such as this are not brought to people's awareness. Next slide. To begin, the origin of self-deception has been flourishing for centuries. In simple terms, self-deception is a process of denying or rationalizing away the relevance, significance, or importance of opposing evidence and logical arguments. This issue is very much correlated to the stimulus package because as the growing understanding of our own opinions grow, our negligence and ignorance to other perspectives increase as well. When people are educated for many years, they begin to assume that the knowledge that they learned is correct and indisputable. Information is gained every year, and knowledge that was once facts changes as new evidence is found to prove it wrong. Ignorance is growing not because of a people willing to ignore evidence, but rather ignorance is growing because information is changing so fast that people are becoming stubborn and are shielding these opposing views from their own. According to the book, Leadership and Self-Deception, Getting Out of the Box by the Arbinger Institute, quote, "One of the growing societal issues today is when we tend to see the world the way we want to and not the way it is." Next slide. Today I'll be portraying to you three main ways self-deception is thriving in our society. The first is through politics, the second is through our opinions of our own self, and the third is through global issues. Although it may be obvious, politics is the main way in which self-deception is thriving. Take President Trump, for example, only a year and a half into his presidency, and there are still millions protesting for his impeachment and reform as president. Another big reason is through political parties. As Americans, we have been accustomed to only seeing an issue on one side of an argument. Similar to the optical illusions by Joe Hill, we seem to be blind to something while looking at it from one perspective, but if seen from another, there's a completely different view to it. This is shown in our political system because those who are conservative and Republican will stand firm and obstinate when a democratic perspective is proposed. This state of confusion has been leading to an excess of violence that can easily be avoided. Next slide. Another way we deceive ourselves is actually in our opinion of ourselves. In a study in 2012, they found that children as young as 3 have what is called a positivity bias, or tendency to see themselves as smart regardless of their actual abilities. They concluded that by adolescence, 1/4 of college-bound students rate themselves in the top 1% in their ability to get along with another. And this alone shows the media and the technology that in the way that is affecting our students in the future of America. Next slide. The final way self-deception and our ignorance is thriving is through global issues, specifically global warming. There are still thousands of people today who believe global warming is still from natural processes despite hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of pieces of evidence against it. According to the Cook Review, of 11,944 studies, 66.4% had no position on the issue of global warming. 32.6% implied humans had, quote, some effect on global warming, and only 65 papers stated that humans are the primary source of global warming. Next slide. Now to the solutions. The most obvious way to overcome political ignorance is by increasing knowledge through education. Unfortunately, political knowledge levels have increased very little over the past 50 to 60 years, and according to the National Education Association, only 25% of United States students reach the proficient standard in the NAEP civics assessment. A public schooling system that would put more of a focus on civic education would help contribute to solving this problem. The limitations is that this system would only do so much. Many could argue the effectiveness of this solution and the bias of the school, and it could take many years. However, the implications is that it would give the student proper, unbiased information without the parent's bias, and it would educate the student more so they can make the decision on their own in the future. According to NEA Today, quote, "One of the primary reasons our nation's founders envisioned a vast public education system was to prepare youth to be active participants in our system of self-government. The responsibilities of each student were soon to go far beyond casting a vote. Protecting the common good would require developing students' critical thinking and debate skills along with strong civic virtues. Next slide. The second solution is proposing middle ground. Having the option to avoid any issues or violence between parties is obviously the best option. And according to the Odyssey, this current Congress does not want to work anything out. They don't want to pass anything that the other side proposes. They want to keep anything and everything from passing. Quote, "It's sad when the most powerful people in our country can't get along and act civil or agree on anything." Next slide. The third solution is to lessen bias in media networks. For years, there has been a rise in very left and very right networks who hold extreme bias in their opinions. As you can see in this graph, it shows on the topic of free trading, it shows that in the three parties, Democratic, Independent, and Republican, it shows how similar they are. So why couldn't this be for any other issue? The decrease in these networks would let everyone reaffirm their political belief if only watching the same unbiased factual networks. The limitations is that it would not solve the problem completely. Many would refuse to give up their platform, and many supporters would fight for its continuation. The implications, however, is that it would change the media because there would be no fake news to start debates, and it would put more pressure on networks to release unbiased information. Next slide. And as you can see from this graph, in the 2012 election of President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, it shows Fox News, a biased network, how it was 700% more likely to stream Mitt Romney's presidential speech than it was to Barack Obama. And it shows in the future being more like CNN, and the stats will definitely help in this issue. To conclude, a mixture of all three of these solutions would be best. All three of these solutions support the opposition